The Aztecs were an advanced civilization that thrived in Mesoamerica from the 14th to 16th centuries. They built impressive cities, developed a sophisticated social structure, and made significant contributions to art, architecture, and science. However, their civilization mysteriously vanished after the Spanish conquest. So what happened to the Aztec people? Many survivors of these epidemics still spoke Nahuatl, the Aztec language, and their descendants can be found among the current indigenous communities in Mexico. During the Spanish conquest, the Aztec nobility and skilled artisans were often given the option to either convert to Christianity, pay a hefty tribute, or be enslaved. Historical records indicate that many Aztecs did resist the Spanish conquest, either by fleeing to remote regions or by joining forces with indigenous resistance groups. Additionally, the Aztec culture, including their language and customs, persisted in some areas, despite attempts at suppression by the Spanish authorities. Moreover, linguistic studies indicate that Nahuatl, the Aztec language, remained relatively pure in some regions, suggesting limited intermixing with other populations. Their population was severely diminished by European diseases, and many survivors were incorporated into the Spanish colonial system. The Aztec culture, however, has persisted in some form, and their descendants can be found among the current indigenous communities in Mexico. Many Aztecs chose to become encomiendas, a system in which indigenous people were granted certain rights and privileges in exchange for their labor. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos about their fascinating history. The Spanish conquistadors intermixed with the Aztec nobility, and the two cultures began to blend together. This supports the idea that the Aztecs, as a distinct cultural group, were the result of a complex interplay of migration, cultural exchange, and adaptation. This theory suggests that the Aztecs didn't disappear, but rather their distinct cultural traits were lost due to intermarriage and the adoption of Spanish customs. This theory suggests that the Aztecs did unvanish but were absorbed into the ranks of the Spanish colonial society. Furthermore, other Mesoamerican cultures, such as the Maya, also suffered greatly from European diseases, yet they were able to preserve their cultural identity to some extent. Despite the efforts of the Spanish authorities to suppress their cultural practices, many Aztecs were able to preserve their identity to some extent. Today, their descendants continue to live in Mexico, speaking their ancient language and keeping alive the memory of their ancestors. One theory is that the Aztecs were wiped out by European diseases. When the Spanish arrived in the Americas, they brought with them diseases that devastated indigenous populations who had no immunity against them. Smallpox, measles, and influenza swept through Mexico, killing millions of Native Americans, including many Aztecs. In fact, it's estimated that up to 90% of the indigenous population perished due to European illnesses. This theory suggests that the Aztecs, along with other Mesoamerican cultures, were decimated by diseases such as smallpox, which may have killed more than half of the indigenous population in some areas. The timing of these epidemics coincided with the Aztec Empire's decline, leading some to believe that diseases played a significant role in their disappearance. However, this theory has its limitations. While infectious diseases undoubtedly had a devastating impact on the Aztec population, it doesn't fully explain their disappearance. Another theory is that the Aztecs were enslaved or incorporated into the Spanish colonial system. However, this theory also has its limitations. A third theory is that the Aztecs were victims of racial mixing and cultural assimilation. However, this theory is challenged by the fact that many indigenous communities in Mexico still identify themselves as Aztec and continue to practice aspects of their culture. In reality, all three theories likely played a role in the fate of the Aztecs. Furthermore, recent genetic studies suggest that the Aztecs and other indigenous peoples of the Americas did not descend from a single ancestral population, but rather multiple waves of migrants from Asia. The Spanish conquest and the subsequent colonial period in Mexico had a profound impact on the history and culture of the Aztec people. What do you think happened to the Aztec? Let us know in the comments below.